Hi, friends, and welcome back. Today, we're diving into a topic that's quietly transforming relationships everywhere: gray divorce, what it is, and how we can help bring the statistic down. When divorce happens, no matter the age, it affects the entire family and circle of friends. Before we get into our topic today, I want to start this episode by saying that as of this recording, I have been married for just beyond 39 years. I'm very lucky to have a great partner in life, but it's not always easy. I understand why women and men get frustrated, bored, angry, and resentful in the second half of life. It is hard work. And while I have had the divorce thought over the years, I am so glad I didn't let my mind and body go there. I think in most cases, it would be better to stick it out and work on the relationship before throwing in the towel. According to renowned researcher John Gottman, couples who stay married are more likely to retain better health. Isn't that crazy? Once alone, health may decline. The divorce rate among couples over 50 has nearly doubled since 1990. But what's really happening? Why are so many long-term marriages coming apart just when life should feel more stable, even peaceful? In this episode, we're going to explore why gray divorce is on the rise and, more importantly, how you can reignite love and connection in midlife, even if things have felt distant for years. For many couples, the early years of marriage are about building careers, families, homes, responsibilities. And somewhere along the way, the relationship takes a back seat to the partnership. We become teammates in logistics rather than soulmates in connection. We might call this the quiet drift. Then the kids grow up, the house gets quieter, and suddenly it's just the two of you again. And you look across the table and think, who are we now? We feel more like roommates than friends and lovers. This is probably the number one thing couples in this stage complain about when seeing a therapist or coach for couples help. That's when many couples begin to feel really disconnected. It's not that love has disappeared, it's that attention did. Love is like a living organism. It needs presence, conversation, curiosity, affection, all the things that make us feel seen and known. And without that, we drift. And the drift isn't dramatic, it's slow. That's why we're calling this the quiet drift. It happens through unspoken resentment, mismatched priorities, and conversations that stay on the surface. Here's the deeper truth, and something I've learned after years of coaching. Most people don't fall out of love, they fall out of awareness. They stop noticing their partner with appreciation. They stop being curious about what their partner feels or needs. It usually is kind of like all about us, right? We start managing the marriage instead of living the marriage. So midlife offers an invitation to wake up, to become conscious, and to step into the art of being in love again. This is the season where we start asking, who am I now? What do I want to create with the years I have left? And those questions are not the end of a marriage. They can be the beginning of a new one if both people are willing to grow. I like to remind my clients the inner work of love is where transformation begins, because it's not about fixing your partner. It's about transforming your own thoughts, energy, and way of being. When you shift your being, your awareness, your tone, your presence, your relationship begins to shift too. So, how do we reignite love in midlife? What I see in so many midlife couples is that they've built a life together, but they've stopped creating a life together. That's the turning point. So let's talk about what you can actually do, some concrete ways that you can start reigniting love in midlife. Here are three. So whether you've been married 10 years or 40, if you're wondering where to start, here are three simple ways to begin the inner work of love and bring your marriage back to life. Number one is start with curiosity, not criticism. So instead of asking, why doesn't he talk to me? Or why don't you talk to me? Ask, what could make conversation easier for both of us? So maybe shift from judgment, which we tend to fall into so often, to curiosity. When curiosity leads, connection follows. One question I've asked my husband is, hey, things in our marriage seem pretty good so far, but do you think it could be better? I mean, it's an honest question. And if he or she responds yes, then you have an open and willing partner. And I have to say that receptivity is a thing. It is positive, it's helpful. Hopefully you get that on the other side. Number two is to rebuild emotional safety. You can't reconnect if one or both of you don't feel safe to be vulnerable. Start by listening, truly listening without interrupting or fixing. Say things like, I see why that hurt, or that makes sense. It's amazing what happens when someone feels heard. And number three, do the inner work. And here I'm going to mention my book, The Inner Work of Love, 10 Understandings for Lasting Relationships, which you can find on Amazon. Every strong relationship begins with self-awareness, noticing your patterns, your triggers, your tone, your expectations. Ask yourself, who am I being right now? And is this who I want to be in love? I know a woman who became aware of how mean she was being to her husband, always like ordering him around and everything. And one day she just made the decision to be much sweeter. And then guess what happened? He became sweeter. This is the foundation of the inner work of love. My book and coaching framework, because when you transform within, your outer world begins to reflect that shift. Let's reimagine what's possible. Women in their 50s and 60s can rediscover tenderness and joy after years of distance. And I want to let you know that if you go it alone, finding a new partner, if that's what you want, may not be easy, just saying. And second marriages end in divorce about 60% of the time. So the grass isn't necessarily greener over there. I've seen couples who thought they were done fall back in love. Not with a fantasy version of each other, but with the real evolving person sitting across the table. Midlife doesn't have to be the time your marriage ends. It can be the season your love awakens. Because love doesn't retire at 50 or 60. It just evolves. It changes. So if you're feeling disconnected or questioning your marriage, I want you to know it's not too late. This is your opportunity to master the art of love in midlife, to reignite passion, rebuild trust, and rediscover what it means to truly connect, starting with you. If this resonates, I invite you to schedule a discovery call with me. It's a very safe, encouraging space to explore what's happening in your relationship right now and how coaching can help you create something beautiful again. So you can book that at lisanellercoaching.com. Thanks for listening and have a beautiful day.